Well, I thought we'd kick things off by asking you how you got into drums. How old were you? Did you have lessons? That sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Brecon in mid Wales, lovely market town in mid Wales, and I started out as a teenager as a BMX freestyle rider. So I did ground tricks and all that sort of stuff. And it got to the point with freestyle where the BMX game became a bit too expensive. So buying frames and forks and stuff like that became too expensive. And I was about 14, 15 at the time. But all the time we were riding, we were listening to imported street sounds, electro compilations, basically old hip hop and stuff like that. And I really fell in love with the sort of big beats kind of vibe with that. And I just thought, shit, I'd really like to have a go at drums. Um, uh, a friend of, actually, no, a cousin of mine, I should say, invited me around to his house just to have a look at his kit. And it was just set up in a tiny bedroom, like an airing cupboard sort of size. And he played, and I can remember having to literally hold onto the wall because I thought I was going to fall over by just the overall effect of it, the volume, everything. It was just, immense. And he gave me some brochures, some catalogs from drum manufacturers at the time, like Pearl, Premier, probably. I think there was a company called Track at the time. And I can remember just spending hours sort of pouring through these catalogs thinking, these just look brilliant. I just want to get one just to look at it apart from anything else. And then eventually got a little kit from a little Premier Olympic kit from a shop in Cardiff, um, which was bought for me by a friend's dad because there was no way that my parents were ever going to sanction this sort of thing. And I can remember coming home from Cardiff and with my mate and his family and trooping into the front door in Brecon with the hi-hat stand, the snare drum, the bass drum. My mum was there on the phone at the time because it was back in the days you had like one phone in the house and it was down the bottom of the stairs. She's on the phone as I'm trooping in with the drums coming in. It's like you could just see her face. It was just like, oh, what the hell have you got there? So, and yeah, so from there, just literally, I mean, the first thing I started to do after, getting the kit was just playing along with compilations, top 40 on a Sunday. I used to try and play along with every single track on the top 40 just for the hell of it. And yeah, and that kind of coincided with that. I just got into buying lots and lots of different styles of music as well, trying to play as much as possible, not to be a swot or to be clever or anything, just for the hell of it. It was just like, I would imagine that it's like having an Xbox now or something. That was what I just spent all my bloody time doing. It's like, oh, let's get up the shed and play drums. And it was literally like 3, 4 hours of just playing along to albums, of just pure joy. And so that's how I started. Got into a band probably within about 6 months of starting to play, which is just a bunch of mates from school playing sort of indie stuff. It's a sort of pre Pixies, let alone pre Nirvana. And we were actually quite good. In fact, I was just to a demo of stuff we did the other day, and it actually sounds like a really clean kind of Nirvana vibe. So yeah, it's mental really. But so that was the first band I got into. And my first teacher was a jazz teacher. He's a big band teacher. He got me into stuff like Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson, Gene Krupa, and eventually bebop and stuff like that. So I came from this kind of new wave and hip hop and all of that sort of stuff, and then started getting into jazz, and then got massively into soul music. I can remember buying a Sound of Philadelphia double cassette from Woolworths in Brecon, where I lived, and playing along with that, and just loving every single track on it. And it's like I didn't even know anything about soul at all, but yeah. So I just fell in love with playing along to music, and I still do. I still love it. So yeah.
Oh, Woolworths. Who misses Woolworths?
Oh, the
Me.
the,
Oh,
Wool the Woolies in
me.
Brecon, but the girl that ran it, she was brilliant because she knew about music. So,
Cool.
can you imagine that now? You imagine somebody in a store like Woolworths and somebody's actually got a keen interest in the music. It's just brilliant. Yeah. All of my friends who are into music remember how great that store was. And yeah, yeah, great
So
scene.
good. So good. Um, I want to take a turn and talk about mental health because that's something me and you've like chatted about a bit. It's a topic that we've spoke to previous guests about.
Mm.
Why is this topic so important to you?
I think the thing is with mental health, I think it's it's often good to hear from people who maybe aren't celebrities and how they've kind of what their experiences have been of mental health and how they've kind of coped with it and how it's affected their lives, but not only in a negative way, in a positive way as well. Because I do believe that there is a kind of there's an upside to the kind of energy that's there with anxiety and even depression to an extent. So for me, it was just like kind of, lifting the veil a bit and saying, look, first of all, it's absolutely fine to talk about it. I think we're all at that point now, basically. But yeah, just to kind of kind of get it out in the open, really, and just talk about, well, what is it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What the hell do you do about it? And that's pretty much it, really. Yeah.
So you have a teaching studio, don't you, in Devon, in Totnes?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
How many students do you roughly have per
I mean,
week?
it's generally because I'm a sole trader. I don't employ anybody else, so it's always going to be kind of under 50 students, which I think that's if you talk to a lot of tutors, unless they're kind of really hammering the schools and doing 15, 20-minute lessons and then going on to the next one. Most sort of private tutors who work out of their own studios tend to kind of keep it around the 50 mark. And apart from anything else, most of your customers are going to be afternoons and evenings because of schools and colleges and whatnot. So yeah, so I'd say around 50. A couple of Zoom students. So one who stayed with me after doing we did a free lessons for NHS frontline workers during I don't know if you remember the pandemic. And there was this lovely guy who said, why don't we just do free music lessons for, NHS workers? And I sort of got on board with that. And the lad that I'm with, he stayed with me, he's still with me now, and he's doing his grade 4 now. He literally just started then. So yeah, so Zoom is really great. I've actually quite enjoyed doing a mix of the two. So yeah.
And is mental health something that you talk about with your students or you encourage them to talk about with you in their lessons?
That's a really good question. That's one I've been thinking about actually. So first of all, I'm in a really, I think, envious position where I've had various students in the past who've been counselors, psychiatrists, and they've been obviously quite open with their profession. So I tend not to talk about it with younger students unless the subject is broached. I think, it's probably not a good idea to start talking about mental health to a student unless they've actually mentioned that, that there may be something up or they want to talk to you or they feel they can't talk to your parents or whichever. So, if you teach in schools, obviously you know about safeguarding and stuff like that. So, but yeah, with some of the adult students, I'm quite open with it. And in fact, a lot of the students that I've had that work in mental health in a similar way, they've kind of said, well, the reason I got into mental health services was because they've had issues in the past, that they've had problems in the past, and that's inspired them to become, whichever counselors or whatnot. So it is nice to be able to, kind of not keep it secret. It's really cool now in this day and age to actually have a conversation with somebody, as their friend and teacher. That's the important thing. You're not just talking to them as a tutor because that's a bit kind of crass then. So I tend to be as open as possible. If somebody ever asks me, totally, I'll tell them, I'll give them a straight answer. So, but yeah, and that's kind of refreshing. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your family setup?
Yeah. So actually talking about my family, I've just had a text from my daughter saying don't swear. So she's obviously never seen this
Yeah, no, don't
podcast.
need to worry about that. We've got Kira's
So
on, so
yeah. Yeah, no chance of that, Jazz. Don't worry. Yeah, I have 3 children. I've got my eldest is Jasmine, who now lives in her own place with her partner, and she's recently got engaged to Matthew. He whisked her off to Italy and proposed to her on the Isle of Capri. So nothing flash. So yeah, so Jazz is yeah, she's doing her thing and she's got her own house. Honey is my next one down, next daughter, and she's still at home with us, but she's at university in Plymouth, and she's responsible for this stuff, for the cover art of the books, and she's an illustrator and she does some incredible work. So yeah, really talented. And Jamie is at college today. He's doing his first day of animal husbandry today at college. So he's quite excited about that yesterday. So yeah. So it's Jazz, Honey, and Jamie.
Lovely.
Bless them.
Did your career aspirations change when you decided to start a family?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Again, this is one of those questions that I thought it actually made me reflect on the things that were going on at the time. And I can remember when we were expecting Jazz, when Karen and I were expecting Jazz, thinking about, job wise, what I was going to be doing. Funny enough, at the time, I was doing a security job. I had a period of depression prior to that, which kind of brings us nicely into what we're talking about. I was working for a tile company, a tile importer, and I was like an assistant manager on good money. I was absolutely ripped with muscles because I was lifting floor tiles and stuff like that, probably fitter than I've ever been in my life. But for whatever reason, and I think one of the reasons may have been that I was trying to do that at the same time as gig every night and get as much recording experience in and all the rest of it, it kind of caught up with me and I was burning the candle at both ends. And yeah, I just hit rock bottom, as they say. And just I went through a period of depression, but then wanted to still work. So I took a job as a security guard just to basically, get me off my backside. And and then went mad on practicing. So I used to take a practice pad and various books with me when I was doing these bloody 12-hour shifts in communications buildings with nothing but TV and hourly walks around the premises. And I started to get my stuff together on the pad. My doubles were sounding good. We then heard that we were expecting, and I thought, oh God, right, I'm gonna have to get a proper job now. Not something which is just on minimum wage. So it's quite a cool story. There was a lad who called Chris, bless him, who used to chat to me at the end of the day when I was guarding one of the premises in Exeter. And he said, "You're really wasted as a security guard. You should come and join us. And you should join the sales team because you're really good at communicating and you get on with people." Um, it turned out he had a bit of a thing for me, which is which is lovely. It's great, and he was such a nice guy, but he was really helpful, and he put in a good word for me, and I ended up getting a job just going into direct sales. So for a time, I was knocking doors in Exeter, selling cable and internet, cable TV and internet, and telephony, home telephone stuff at the time, and I flipping loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought the first day I did it, I thought this is going to be terrible. The first door I knock, I was breaking it. And then I think within a week or so, I thought, this is amazing. This is really cool. I mean, you got some knockbacks and stuff, and you got some lots of nice people, but it just kind of proved to me that, yeah, even the most on the face of it frightening things, when you just get out there and have a go, it's like, this is all right. And the money was really good. The downside of that was the music side of things. I can remember watching a concert the morning of my interview for what became Telewest Broadband, that then became Virgin Media. And I was watching this concert thinking, oh, I'm never going to do that now because I'm going to get a proper job. And it was like, oh no. So on the one hand, I was really kind of sad about it. On the other hand, excited about getting a new job. And little did I know that drums were always they were going to be there. Dormant is the word. They were always going to be there, bubbling under, but never far away. So yeah. So to go on from there, I ended up doing quite well with the sales work. I then got promoted to a trainer, so I started training people how to sell door to door, and eventually went into mobile telephony. I worked for a company called Jag Communications as a store manager, but then again got promoted and then became training manager for the company. So then I was doing a similar kind of thing, but I was setting up induction courses for people to teach them how to sell phones and stuff. And at the same time studying to get my training certificate with CIPD. So which was, again, that was kind of life-changing. The CIPD thing, although it's a fairly common certificate, teaching you classroom techniques, instructional techniques, was a real eye-opener. And just things like basic psychology was included, and memory, how memory works, recall, etc. And that definitely had an impact later on when I thought, right, I'm going to do teaching, or I'm going to give it a go. So yeah, so all of those things kind of led up quite nicely, really, quite neatly. It wasn't planned like that. That's the thing. When you look back over it, it's like, oh, that's good. That would make a good interview in Modern Drummer or something. But no, it's always messy as hell when it's happening. So yeah.
So, what was the moment then when you left this quite, cushy job that you'd worked your way up to
Hmm.
deciding, actually, I'm going to do more drumming and make that my source of income? What happened?
Ooh. Yeah, there was a few things that happened around the same time, which really kind of almost made the decision for me. The first thing was I'd been playing for a singer-songwriter called Nikki Swan, who's incredibly talented, really great writer. And she invited me to play on an album. And at the time, I was actually managing the store that I mentioned. So I was managing a mobile phone shop. And she said, "Will you come down to these studios in Cornwall, Sawmill Studios? They're quite famous, like uh, Stone Roses that that recorded there. Oasis did. I think they did Definitely Maybe down there. You can only get there by boat, so it's really romantic. So anyway, Nikki invited me to come down and play on the album because we'd been, in a band before, and I backed her before. And I thought, this is amazing. I should be doing this all the time, and as you do. It's residential as well, so you had to stay there. So once you were there, it's just music, and you just recorded, and you couldn't escape. You could go and sit by the river in the sun, which is beautiful, but it's just lovely place in Cornwall to record. So I kind of thought, well, hang on a second, this isn't going away, and the album did quite well. It's on Apple Music, Spotify, and all the rest of it. And then I think maybe about a year after becoming a training manager, somebody in the store where I was at the time overheard somebody saying they were going to start learning drums, but they couldn't find a teacher. So the person in the store knew that I played drums, and she went outside and said, "Oh, James can probably teach you." And I thought, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing that for?" I don't do that thing anymore. And so that was Callum's mum, and he turned out to be my very first student. And then I sort of started teaching part-time whilst doing the telephony job as well. And the thing that actually propelled me, as these things happened, the company I worked for basically went broke. They didn't pay their VAT. They were having to, well, they were just basically losing money everywhere. So people were getting laid off. And so I was, found myself without a job for the first time in ages, and thought, right, okay, sod it, I'm going to give teaching a go. So I'd already been teaching part-time. When I was signing on, an interesting thing was, have either of you been unemployed before for any sort of length of time? Can
Not
you
officially,
Yeah,
but
No,
musicians. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if can you remember going to the job centre and having to sign on, and then they'd ask you what you'd been doing?
yes,
So
yes,
as soon as I said to them, well, when they asked what do you want to do, and I said I want to be a music teacher, I'm doing it already. I'm a part-time music teacher. They kind of left me alone. They didn't sort of say, oh, let's get you an interview with such and such down the road, which is completely not suited to you, which in a way was really good and quite surprising. So because I'd already started looking to go self-employed and start teaching, I think they kind of thought, yeah, you know what, we're gonna help you with that. And they gave me a kind of sign off, I think, which they do when you start going self-employed. They give you a stipend, a stipend or whatever. And yeah, and we went from there, and basically I started teaching above a music shop in Totnes, which is how a lot of people start out. That didn't last too long because the music shop then went out of business. So I had all my gear in the shop, and it was one of those situations where the shop equipment was going to be seized to go to auction, and all of my stuff was upstairs with the guitar tutor stuff as well. So it's like, let's get the stuff out of there before it goes to auction. So that was pretty stressful. And then it was like a hunt for a studio in Totnes, which took about 6 months until we found this place in 2011. So I've been there. Yeah, I've been here since. So yeah. So basically, to cut a long story short, the final thing was redundancy, and it's like, okay, that's it. There's no better sign that you just got to kind of move on and give it a go. Then. So.
sometimes that's the best way, though, isn't it? When you get pushed into something, then you
I
just
so. Yeah.
just
It really forced the issue, and it got me thinking as well about, okay, well, you want to be a teacher, who do you talk to? So the very first person I spoke to, I think, was Colin Walway, and we were talking about the Drumsense program, and how it might help, how it might suit me going forward. And yeah, and that was immensely helpful because it gave me the drum sense thing, whatever you want to call it. It's not really a method. It was just more like a family at the time. It gave me structure to my teaching, and it gave me that word again, freedom to kind of not only teach from the drum sense books, but I had to sort of pivot and go to, other styles and all the rest of it. So it's often kind of it's often confused, I think, that the drum sense program, people think that you only actually learn from one or two books which were written by Colin, but it's a lot wider than that. So if you're a drum sense tutor or have been, you kind of know you kind of know what I'm talking about. It ends up with what I've got here, but yeah. So Colin really helped out in the early days. And then eventually we started putting on events down here, Colin being one of the guests. So he would, he'd come down and do a couple of clinics. Steve White's been down. He's done a couple of clinics down here. We've had Craig Blundell doing teaching weekends. Rob Bryan, it's brilliant. He's been down as well. And then, yeah, it's great. It's a good vibe down here. The way where we're situated in Totnes, I don't know if you know the area, but it's a bit like a triangle. You've got Torbay, then you've got Plymouth, and then the other side you've got Exeter. So we kind of serve that nice big triangle there. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's surprising to be able to get the number of students that we've got in this area in a way. But yeah, there we go.
Totnes has also got a music college, hasn't it? I remember I looked at that for
Oh, oh, it did. It did.
degree. It did, but not
It
anymore.
did. Yeah. Oh, that's very contentious. Yeah. It got shut down, and it was world renowned, and it was on Dartington Hall
Yeah.
estate, which funny enough, I've worked on the estate as well. But yeah, it ended up going down to Dartington College of Arts, is what it was called. It ended up being moved to Falmouth in Cornwall. So which no real links as such to Dartington geographically, as far as I know. But Dartington's an interesting one actually. At one point, CalArts, the Californian Institute for the Arts, they were very interested in buying Dartington Estate, and they were going to turn it into a private college stroke university for musicians, actors, etc. CalArts, you probably know, they've got such an amazing, back list of people that have gone into movies and musicians and whatnot. And it never came to fruition. It's a sad thing because there's really not much music going on at all now in Dartington. So it's just you've got the gardens, and that's pretty much it. The odd event here and there, but yeah, lovely place though.
I remember I looked around it a long time ago, and yeah, there was a lot of music going on. So I'm sorry to hear that, but it sounds like you've found lots of people learning drums anyway. So
Yeah, absolutely. There's a good scene in Totnes. There's a young musicians cooperative uh, called Jamming Station, where people from sort of late primary school age up to age 18, and then an adult group, they get together and they can learn how to collaborate, songwriting, just generally having a good time, recording and all sorts of stuff. So there's plenty of stuff going on in the town. There's a couple of really good venues. So yeah, it's a good scene.
I just wanted to go back a little bit where you said that you experienced a bout of depression when you were telling us about your work before.
Yeah.
Did that change when you were doing more drumming? Have you found that this lifestyle now is better for you?
Um, yeah, it generally I would say yes. I mean, the first thing I would say is the best moments and the best days of my life have occurred kind of post-diagnosis, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, you could be tempted to think that since you might have had anxiety or depression, that all your days are going to be, kind of not as great as before, and everything is sort of in the past and not whatnot. It's not like that. It's really not. You can live a very, very happy life because you're not always anxious and you're not always depressed. You'll go through periods. Well, I do. I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but you will go through periods where it is almost not there at all, and you're just doing your thing. And one of the things with mental health is that, especially if you're in therapy, I think sometimes it's kind of tempting to just let that consume you and think about it all the time, and then you miss out on everything else. You know, you're not really living a life then. If you're always sort of getting up and thinking, well, what sort of mood am I in today? You know, rating it from 1 to 10 or whatever, your mind is already pretty much set into mental health mode. So I think sometimes you've got to kind of give yourself a step back and say, no, I'm just going to get on with stuff. So in terms of depression affecting, you mean in terms of affecting work, I guess, yeah?
Yeah, like just general life with work and family.
Yeah, I can remember distinctly when I was rehearsing with Nicky Swan's band one time, and I can remember playing and just thinking, I'm just not here. I can't hear myself and the way I normally play, and everything was just not quite as tight as it should be. And I was pretty miserable at the time, but I didn't realize it at the time. And I went home and spoke to Karen, my wife, and said, look, my playing's suffering and I don't know why. And it was, yeah, it was kind of just a little bit of depression creeping in and self-doubt. And that was eating away at my playing, and almost I don't know if you've ever had this, but when you're playing, you kind of second guess yourself and you're kind of overly critical in the moment. And it's almost like losing the ability to play without rating yourself, as I say, in the moment. And I think that's horrible. And it's once you start doing it, it's hard to get out of the habit of doing that. But I know mindfulness is a very hip and popular term at the moment, but it is useful. Without mindfulness, I think as drummers or musicians in general, it's kind of hard to play and bring out your personality. If you're always thinking about, do I sound as good as this person? Do I sound as good as I was yesterday? Because we are quite tough on ourselves, I think, as drummers. Sometimes unnecessarily so. So to get back to that, I think eventually I went to a GP and said, look, I think I probably need some help and some medication. He put me on a course of medication. I think that straightened me out a lot then. So yeah, it can have an effect, definitely. It's mostly on your confidence levels, and that then will have an effect on what you're playing. So it's not a case of like turning up to a rehearsal and bursting into tears or anything like that. It's not that dramatic often. But yeah, depression is, luckily for me, it's way more rare than anxiety. A bad bout of depression won't come on anywhere near as anxiety. Otherwise, it would be really, really hard. But that's generally like a build-up of not looking after yourself for too long, basically. So doing all the good things that you should do to keep yourself on an even keel. So yeah.
That leads me on well, because I was going to ask you if there's any kind of routine or must do's that you have when things are feeling a bit more challenging.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've already mentioned the blessed lockdowns and the pandemic and all the rest of it. And I can remember chatting to Whitey, to Steve White, and saying after the lockdowns, I said, when we were sort of, all holed up and, we didn't know what to do. I said, if it wasn't for drums at the time, I think I just would have, gone, even more mad than I thought I would. And he said, yeah, that makes perfect sense. He felt the same. So as an outlet, I think drumming, for me, it's as close as I can get to religion without sounding too, too wacky. But it's something which really still lights a fire in me. And, I want to get up and play, or I want to get up and practice. I really love practicing now. The older I get, the more value I put on practicing, even if it's just on a practice pad or whichever. So playing for me is really important. I find that just activity, there's nothing worse, literally nothing worse than just sitting around letting your thoughts consume you. So one of the quotes that's in one of the books, I can't remember whether it's the blue or the orange one, is from Kenny Werner, the jazz pianist. Brilliant author and pianist. And it basically suggests that, in order to achieve great art, don't be too preoccupied with how great it is. Just get on with the bloody stuff, And it's just the process of getting on with it, and that's when the gold happens, really. So I think for me, inactivity is a bit of an enemy. So that's what I try to avoid where possible. And when we all kick back, when we can, maybe too much sometimes, but yeah. So if I'm busy, I mean, I've just recently put a to-do list on my phone, which I hated the idea of, but all of those little things, they help. Yeah.
What do you wish you could say to your younger self?
Ooh, should we stick an age on that?
Yeah.
Go on, give me an age.
The age that you started drumming, I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, just started drumming.
Yeah.
I would say you won't believe what's in store, and how good it's going to be. And no word of a lie that some of the stuff, some of the experiences that I've had playing, recording, but mostly just the people that I've met and the friendships that I've forged through music, have been just amazing, absolutely amazing from so many different experiences. One that springs to mind is the very first, what became the Freddie G Academy, started as a Pearl summer school in France, and I was yeah, it was a 21st birthday present from my parents. They paid for me to go, and there's just a load of us Brits that went over on a coach, which seemed to take days to get to get to the southwest of France and or west of France, I should say. And it was just brilliant. Some of the people I'm still in contact with. It's weird because that academy, I can think of maybe 10 people who are still in music professionally now, just from that group. And when you think about drum academies and how popular they are, and they're springing up all over the place, you've got the one in Ireland, you've got there's a few big ones in Europe, isn't there? But when you then think about, well, okay, well, who's gone to those schools and where are they now? And are they playing? Are they still playing? And yeah, that was just amazing. That was life-changing because I was with a bunch of people for the first time, and we all thought, oh, we could do this. We weren't sat in our bedrooms or rehearsal spaces thinking, we're not good enough, we're never going to make it. It was just, no, let's have a crack at it, and a lot of them did. So yeah.
That was lovely. That made me shed a tear
Oh,
No,
with your. You
seriously.
won't
Jem.
believe how. Sorry, I'm. Kira's always swearing. I'm always crying. That's how it is. But it's lovely. I'm glad that your younger self
There's a
would
real
hear that.
stereotype thing going on there, isn't there? Come on, pull
No,
yourself
she loves
together.
it. She loves it.
Yeah, me too. Oh,
I've got
what's that then?
listeners, I've got some books in my hands, so look at the YouTube instead. Can you
Yeah.
please tell us about your awesome books and also a little special offer you might have for our
Yeah,
listeners,
yeah, definitely,
please?
definitely. So, first of all, to tell you about the books, I mentioned earlier Colin Morway. One of the things that he taught me and a number of other tutors was something called the 8-bar pattern, which is just it's as it sounds. It's just 8 bars of quarter notes and eighth notes, just written for one sound source on it. You could write it on a single line if you want to. You could play it on a pad, you could play it on a snare or whichever. Just quarter notes and eighth notes. And all it does is it moves the pattern, if you like, moves you through downbeats and offbeats or upbeats. And that's it. That's all it does. And I thought, okay, I've been using this 8-bar pattern with students for, well, 12 years prior to writing the book. And the more I used it, the more I thought I'm going to have to just write this stuff up. So I learned, I taught myself how to use Finale, the composition software, and started writing this stuff up. And I think after about 6 months, I thought, oh God, I've got enough for a book here. And I got in touch with Colin and said, look, I've got this idea. I want to do a book on the 8-bar pattern. Are you happy with that? Basically, I just wanted his permission, and he said yes straight away, which is brilliant. So I thought, okay, I'm going to crack on with this, and carried on writing, carried on using the Finale stuff, and then I think after about 12 months, I thought I've got too much for one book. So it's then like, okay, do I hold it back or do I put 2 out? So I thought, no, sorry, I'm going to do one for the snare drum and the pad, practice pad, and I'll do one for the drum set and put them out almost like maybe the start of a series. So I'm not sure. There might be a third one. Hopefully there will be. And it basically just came from that gem of an idea of the 8-bar pattern. It's a brilliant thing. Very, very influenced by Jim Blackley's books and Ted Reed as well. conceptually, because Colin was inspired very much by them. I think Colin was actually hipped to Jim Blackley's stuff by Bob Armstrong. So there's this. I was thinking of doing an article on this actually for because I sometimes write for Music Teacher. There's a lineage of concepts and techniques and ways of teaching that you can draw right from the George Lawrence Stones and the Ted Reeds right up to the modern guys like your Jos Nichols, your Benny Grebs and all the rest of it. And yeah, you can track it back through. But Bob, did you study with Bob, Kira?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I thought so, yeah. So I mean, I never got a chance to to learn with them, unfortunately, but lots of my teachers and friends have. So there's stuff that I use. I've got one of his books here, a Charlie Wilcoxon book, which is one of Bob's old ones, which I cherish. It's great. And yeah, it's funny how my teaching is influenced, almost not secondhand, but second degree by somebody like that, then, which I think is great. I think it's really nice. It's just maybe a drum teacher's family tree thing would be good.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's like a family tree. With
It
drummers,
is.
they do share, so it is exactly like that.
I
Do
think
it.
most of us do. I think the good ones do.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? It's like that Gil Scott Heron quote, if you could help, why wouldn't you? And I love that.
Yes.
I just think it's such a great way to live, a good thing to live by. So, yeah.
100%. So tell us about this offer then, if people
Right.
are
So,
interested in your books, and they
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
superb,
So
listeners.
I've got stock of the books because they're self-published basically. So we've got stock here of both books. And yeah, what I'd like to do is offer 20% off for anybody that's listening to the pod. And I thought it would be nice if they just email me drumting, DRUMTING at gmail.com. And if you just put mamas in the header, that'll be great. And if they like to order any or both of the books, then we'll knock 20% off for them then.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely.
Thank you. They're so generous. It's great.
No, not at all. It's a pleasure.
What have you got coming up next? Have you got any plans?
Lessons later on today. I've got a really nice day today because somebody's coming in earlier than they should. So in terms of plans, I know that there's going to be a load of exams to do before the end of term because I think a lot of people want to get whatever grades they're working on at the moment out of the way before September. There's nothing worse for a teacher or for a student than going away in July, having not finished a grade, and then coming back to it in September, and then having to do the same material. It's like, oh God, it's this again. So there's going to be a big push for that. There may be some updates to the ebook with the Freedom Within Structure books, but I'm not going to say too much about that at the moment. What I will say is anybody that's buying the print copies, any updates or additions to the ebook will be given to them free of charge as well. They'll get all the future updates as well, so they're not going to miss out on anything. But and then possibility of a third book, but I'm still undecided on which way to go with that. So yeah,
Sounds good. There's definitely stuff going on.
oh
So
definitely, always.
Is there anything else you want our listeners to know? Then we've got a few minutes, but other than that, we've had a lovely time.
Yeah, I think just if there is anybody out there that's listening to this or watching this, and they're just not they're not having a good time, and they feel that they might be impacted by anxiety, depression, or both, or whichever. I mean, the first thing I would say is talk to somebody. If it's not your GP, talk to a mate, talk to friends, reach out. If you don't feel like you can get to a GP or talk to your GP, there's a great organization called Help Musicians, who I got in touch with last year, actually, because the service that I was kind of pointed to by the NHS wasn't particularly good at the time. So I thought there's got to be another option. And they will put you in touch with another organization called Music Minds Matter. Now, Music Minds Matter, basically, if you then get in touch with them and they think you could be helped by some therapists, they'll put you in touch with BAPAM. And the Musicians Union also work with them. So they'll put you in touch with therapists who have previously worked with musicians. So they'll know what the score is and what it's like to be a working musician. So I had 6 sessions, I think, last year with a fantastic therapist who gave me some amazing tools, to kind of go forward and work on myself basically. So yeah, and those are really, really great sort of resources if you are feeling that you're not coping as best you can. The only other one I would have mentioned, and I've put a link, or I've sent the link through to you, is there's an organization called GLAD, which is analyzing and trying to work out whether there's any genetic link between anxiety and depression with previous family. So I know that on my mum's side, her parents had issues with mental health, and it's free to sign up. It's totally confidential, but the more people that get involved with it, the better their output will be, and kind of help answer that question if there is a link then. So yeah.
I don't know about Kira actually, but when I was at college, probably because we were the only two girls in our class, but I went through a bout of really bad performance anxiety. Is that something that as a teacher you see with many of your students or many other drummers who you're in touch with, or you yourself?
Yeah, it's funny because I mean I've got the list of anxiety disorders in front of me, and I mean I don't know how we're doing for time, but I mean if I just give you these kind of terms which are in the DSM manual, and it's all kind of, it's very neat and tidy, but you've got generalized anxiety, which could be a variety of things, which could be eating away at you at any given time. Social anxiety, so maybe avoiding meeting new people, going to parties or whichever. Separation anxiety, sounds like what it is. Phobias are a separate thing. And then panic disorder. So I would say that, I mean, with those, that begs the question then, where does performance anxiety sit with those, those actual terms? And I think it's probably kind of between social anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder. Because with performance anxiety, it's not just the fear of talking to other people, is it? If you're anxious about performing in front of somebody and you're playing drums or guitar or bass or whichever, that's not the same as having a conversation. It might be similar, but that's more like, well, that's kind of similar to generalized in that there could be lots of things that are making you feel anxious about performance. So I used to get nervous prior to gigs. And if I ever got anxious, and I do treat those completely separately. For example, this morning I was, nervous about coming on to an extent, but excited nervous. So I wasn't anxious about appearing on a podcast. If you get to the point where you're anxious about performing, then I think, you probably then could look at some mechanisms for, helping that. And one of the things that really helped me was visualization. So I used to actually visualize the venue that I was to be playing at. And I used to visualize having a great gig and playing it through like a movie, which is really good. It helped me a lot. Yeah. The only time it didn't work, and this could sound really bloody obvious, what if you've never played that venue before? And then you want to visualize. It's like, yeah, okay, I can imagine I'm in a great gig. Never been there, but for the most part, I think visualization is a fantastic technique for performers. And it could be used in any walk of life within reason. I mean, you could imagine I know what a great lesson looks like, for example. So if I've got a new student, I'm, for whatever reason, maybe not anxious about teaching, but you can always kind of, visualize what it should look like if it's all going well. So what did you have to reach out for any sort of guidance or help then, Jem?
I did, yeah. So I went to there was a therapist linked to the college who I was
Yeah.
able to go to for some sessions. But actually, I think one of the most helpful things was there's a book called Effortless Mastery, which is by Kenny. And I always get, is it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who you mentioned earlier. And that was a great book that really changed things for me. And also then reading the Cycle of the Circle of Self-Empowerment by Don Famularo, that helped. And doing like positive affirmations.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And just trying to not think that everyone was watching me and judging me, and trying to just focus on something else.
The Werner book is gold. It's just amazing, and even if you're not a musician, I reckon that anybody that has a career could pick that up and get something from it. The whole thing about being judged by other people. I mean, sometimes it's a good idea to step back and think, okay, how often are you two thinking about other people in the space of, a 12-hour day, for example? How much time do you spend thinking about other people, not family, just other people, maybe other drummers? It's probably not that much,
Yeah.
You're probably not judging people very often, are you?
Not
I
at
would
all.
guess.
No.
So why the hell would other people do the same with you? It's like, okay, that doesn't make sense at all. So
Yes.
in which case, why am I worrying? That's kind of one of the things that's brought in with CBT, with cognitive behavioral therapy. You actually have to analyze, your anxiety and kind of almost justify it. If you think that people think you're an idiot, well, write down why and then justify it. Are you right or are you wrong? And guess what? You're probably wrong. Probably. But yeah,
It's
I think the Kenny Werner book. I read a great book. I mean, Carl Rogers is kind of the go-to for a lot of people in the counselling profession. But On Becoming a Person is a very good book as well. Yeah, I recommend that one. Some great quotes in it. One of my favourite things from that, which relates to teaching as well, he describes his relationship with his clients, not patients, his clients. And he says, in order to be authentic, if you're actually pissed off with your client and you're angry that they haven't done something, don't hide it. Show them that you are pissed off, show them that you're angry. And I think sometimes as a teacher, in order to have a professional appearance and all the rest of it, sometimes we'll hold back a bit and kind of, hide the fact that we might be disappointed that somebody hasn't practiced. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing, because that actually is negative energy, which is then just within yourself. You've got to be authentic as a tutor, definitely. Otherwise it does you no good professionally or personally. You've got to get it out there, basically. So yeah.
great advice. Thank you. We're going to put all of those links that you mentioned in the episode notes.
Brilliant.
But so valuable. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
thank you.
again. Thanks for having me on. It's been an honor. And I know that I know it's the Drummer Mamas podcast, but I know for a fact that there's loads of blokes that tune in and watch this and thoroughly enjoy it. So yeah.
Oh, I hope so.
Oh,
It's a great resource, and as far as I'm concerned, it's for everybody. It's good. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for listening to the Drummer Mamas podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a 5-star rating because it makes us more visible to other listeners. And we really do appreciate any comments or reviews. It makes a difference. Thanks again, and see you next time.